I don't know if you noticed lately, but there's a lot of people not real happy with what's going on in our country, what's going on with our politics. And that has some people discussing the idea of a third party. We say third party, it's not really a third party because there's already lots of other parties that exist. The Socialist Party, the Green Party. I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff. Probably like the Alien Party. I don't know all of them, but there's many different parties. Parties just really what it is people grouping together, organizing for a common cause. But for some reason, it gets dubbed a third party, I guess, because we're stuck in this two-party system that's making us all crazy that nobody wants to seem to do anything about. So I'm asking the question. And so the question is the time right for a third party, another party, a contender to deal with, to provide some competition to Democrats and Republicans? Is the timing right? Could it work? Is it something that could be pulled off? It's just a waste of time. And I think the last question is it a good idea? I mean, let's face it. We've been doing things the same way for a long time. Do we really want to introduce something else, or do we really just want to try and fix what's broken? And before I really get into my feelings on each of those three questions and responses that I've heard to people about those three things, the timing and could it work and is it a good idea, let me kind of switch gears for a second and use a little bit of an analogy to kind of frame where I'm coming from on this. I come from a family of builders. And, if you've ever built anything, you know that the foundation is vitally important. And this is an analogy for many things besides just buildings. You could use the example of a tree and the root system, iceberg, with much of the ice being below the surface of the water. There has to be this base to support whatever it is that's above it. And the bigger it is that's being supported, the more important that the proper foundation be. And this is a good lesson for so many areas of our life. If we don't lay the proper foundation now, we're going to suffer the consequences of that in the future. And so one of the rules that we know in building, a lesson that I learned early on, and I'll tell you the story, you don't build on top of a bad foundation. Whether it's cracked or broken or out of square, do you know what that means? When the corners aren't properly 90 degrees, like that. You don't want a crooked house. It's not good. Well, I saw it happen early in my career. Foundation built, concrete foundation. And, it wasn't like that. It was just a little bit, 2 inches. It happened to be a very expensive custom luxury home. And the person who was working for my father at the time, who was managing that project, thought that it could be dealt with later. And they brought in the carpenters and they continued to build on top of it. And what I witnessed early in my career was how that problem, a big problem, it's a problem when you have a bad foundation. And it's going to take a little bit to get it fixed. But if you don't stop and fix it, all you do is magnify the problem. And I feel like that's what we're doing. We continue to double down on ideas that, whether they were good or not, seems to be time for a little bit different philosophy, or at least a group of people that are going to be true to that philosophy. Now, I will tell you personally on the idea of a third party, I view it as the ends to a means. We're trying to bring back a certain philosophy to this country. And if we can get, existing party candidates to get on board with that and follow through with it, well, fantastic. Then I guess there would be no need for a third party. But as it stands, even on basic issues that are important to conservatives, and we've been through a few elections where we've elected a Republican majority and been let down time and time again. And I think it's time to build a new foundation, whether it's within the party that doesn't seem to have any desire to make those changes, or we do it within a new party. I want to dispel one big myth before I let you go on this. And I know there's a lot of different opinions, and I think they're all good, and many of them are right, and right. There can be more than one right answer. So the purpose of my video here is to start the conversation. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if we're still able to do that in this country. But I want to dispel a very important myth. A lot of people are concerned that creating another party does nothing more than to split one of the existing parties, in this case probably the Republican Party, and therefore just really weakening the movement by dividing it. Again, in essence, providing a sure margin to the Democrats. I want to tell you that this country, the world, has been consistently changed by small groups of people, sometimes just one person. It does not require a majority, but it does require more than one person in most cases to change a country. But I think more importantly, it's so vital that especially now we focus on doing what's right, even if it's not popular, even if it doesn't win. I think it's important to take a stand to do what's right. Forget about what's popular or not popular. And the issue of division has also pretty much been decided. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Put some comments in the video below. You can always leave me a message at ChristopherScottShow.com. I personally respond. I'm always glad to hear from you. Even if you have a different perspective, I'd love to hear. Who knows? Maybe I'll use it in a future video or on the podcast. Make it a great day.
Warning. This podcast includes unapologetic logic and reason and may not be suitable for all audiences. In a world full of nonsense, he's been called the voice of uncommon common sense. He sees the abnormal that many find normal. Author and award-winning speaker, he is Chris